Welcome back to the OK Not OK podcast, yet again our terribly named podcast. Well, I am the not okay part of this, as this will be a toughie as we review WrestleMania 40 Behind the Curtain. I'm the SportsZu, buckle up. Okay, so this is a little different than normal, but the documentary finally came out on YouTube a little over a week ago, so I figured I should look into it and give my thoughts about it instead of just doing whatever kind of normal podcast I might do when I'm not doing a betting podcast. So, well, here we are. Let's see where we land. Well, let's start with this one right off the top. We're going to go through each of the main figures in this WrestleMania documentary, and then at the end of that we will give some thoughts about it and what we may have done differently over the past couple of years and now going forward. So let's start off with The Rock. He is now the final boss, and truly I think this was his documentary. So to say the least, I think he was definitely the central figure in this documentary, and I think he had a great deal to do with why this thing took so long to come out. I know everyone wanted to play everyone else in a good light here, but I think this was The Rock's doing. He needed to make sure that he looked good on this documentary because at the end of the day, I think he single-handedly almost messed up everything. It was The Rock who had the power to come back at any time and give us the Reigns-Rock main event that we wanted, but no, he decided to finally pull the trigger at the absolute worst time. So, how did we get here? WrestleMania 39. He said we couldn't figure out a way to get there for 39. But you thought you had it here instead? Wow, what a strange idea that is. You said on the documentary you were quietly building this up for years. And yeah, maybe in the Super Bowl of all places, you were there at SoFi Stadium, and I think you kind of set it up then to take place at WrestleMania 39. And then you just let it go because you couldn't come up with a creative idea? Well, we're going to talk about that at the end on what we should have done for the creative idea, but for now, we'll just let that go. Then you said you could only go around so many times before you had to test the waters. But why would you do this at day one? There was a grand plan in place for Cody versus Roman in this rematch, and then you just decided to step yourself into the deep waters here and see what would happen. Well, of course, everyone's going to be excited if you tease Reigns versus Rock on a random Monday Night Raw. Well, yeah, that was a match we always wanted. So if you're going to say something about being the head of the table, then yeah, we're going to get excited about it. So that's just how it should be. You just show up and say you're going to sit at the head of the table. It's just frustrating as a fan to think that, this was the moment you thought was the right time after all of this time. There's only so many chances left you get with The Rock. And when you hear something like that, yeah, you're going to get excited about it the first time you hear it officially start to happen. So I don't even know why that was a testing of the waters. It's just really frustrating. Really frustrating. Well, then of course we fast forward. Cody wins the Rumble, and so then The Rock only changes his heart and his mind after he heard the fans and he gave a blessing to change it. It was like he had to come up with the idea himself to go a different direction, or else they just would have trucked ahead, as Rock said a couple of times in the documentary. Well, yeah, I guess so. No one could stop you. That was just what we were going to have to go with. Man, frustrating. Anyways, Rock, I have to give you credit from there on because what you guys changed to was amazing. The final boss is an outstanding character. Truly electrifying, as one would say. And I've got to give you a lot of credit, whatever you stumbled into there, turning heel and just being the amazing character that you were. It was outstanding. You really took over as the main player in this feud, even ahead of Reigns and Rhodes. It's just amazing. You were definitely the man leading up into WrestleMania. So at the end of the day, it was actually kind of strange that he was the only one that was in just one match and only in a tag match in WrestleMania. It seemed like, if anything, he should have been in 2 matches as well somehow. But I don't know, Rock. This was a weird one all in all. You were just so amazing as a WWE superstar, but just so strange behind the scenes. So strange. I'm frustrated. Rock, you're my all-time favorite wrestler. I don't know what to tell you. All of my fantasy teams are named after you. So, Rock, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that this was the time that you came up with, but I don't know. I don't want to linger on that. There were a lot of other things in this documentary. Let's talk about Triple H. Well, he started off the documentary by saying WrestleMania was penciled in at about 80% in October, with the full intent to have Cody have a hot year and then have him challenge Reigns yet again at WrestleMania. Well, duh. I mean, obviously that was what you had to do when you had Cody lose at WrestleMania 39. There was just no other thing you could do. There was just nothing else you could do. I mean, you set it up that way at WrestleMania 39. You had to pull the trigger in WrestleMania 40. So yeah, it's tough. You basically didn't have the power to tell Rock no on his own. I mean, these other guys at Endeavor that had just bought the WWE, I mean, man, this is frustrating. I mean, wow. Triple H. This is Triple H, guys. No one else should have even had a say in this. It just should have been what it is. I get it that, you know, Rock versus Reigns is what Hollywood would want and what maybe the rest of the world, just as fans that don't pay attention to wrestling, would want. But Triple H, he's the best in the game. He is the game. I mean, come on. I just don't know how he just couldn't have put his foot down and said, this is what we have to do. But man, I'm a little frustrated. This was basically another Rock versus Triple H contest. But at the end of the day, Triple H knew best, as he almost always tends to do. And so he plowed on with his plans that he thought were right, and they were right. So it was really something when he sat down with Rhodes the afternoon of the Royal Rumble and told him that it was likely that Rock versus Reigns was the way they were going to go with this. And they were still going to have Rhodes win the Rumble. It was weird. I had thought since after that day one promo that Rhodes was not winning that Rumble. I thought we were locked in then on Rock versus Reigns. I thought that was just it. And so Cody was going to lose this time, and I thought CM Punk was going to win. I really did. I thought that way you can get the Rumble winner out of the road and have him challenge Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. So at the end of the day, it worked out well the way it worked out. But yeah, surprising he still wanted to pull the trigger on Rhodes. So good for him to sticking to his guts. He knew what to do. I'm just thoroughly impressed with Triple H at the end of the day, that he, you know, no matter what, he cleared the path for the right thing to happen at the end of the day. Just amazing. And I thought it was very interesting when he said if Rhodes failed, he thought it would damage him. So he had to give Rhodes that Royal Rumble win. And yeah, I mean, that might be right. I'm not sure. I think the fans would have been behind Rhodes no matter what. I mean, you can't win every single time. We hadn't seen back-to-back Rumble winners for a long, long time. So for him to lose a Rumble, I don't think it would have really hurt for long. I think he could have had a good match at WrestleMania against somebody. I don't know who. It would have been good. And then I think it would have led right into doing the same thing for next year and getting right back to Rhodes versus Reigns. But at the end of the day, Triple H was right. He knew what to do. So, you know, good on him. Good on him. And Triple H even admitted that he agreed that if Rock versus Reigns happened at any other time, it would have been the biggest match of all time. And he was right there, but not this time. And he just knew right then that was the right way to do it. To me, Triple H came out as the best looking out of anyone here on this documentary. So props to him. He deserves the spot he has. I just wish that there had not been the hesitation and capitulation to letting Rock sneak his way in there and almost almost take over. So now that it's in the rear view, I hope that they give Triple H that authority to just go with it no matter what and not look sideways. Now, I guess the good news is we're not going to have those at odds views with the final boss coming back. I think we're in pretty good shape going forward, that they can continue to be aligned once they got on the same track there. So I think we're looking at a few more really, really good WrestleMania main events. So looking forward to the future. But let's talk about the other guys that were in this match. So Seth Rollins, he was injured. It's hard to believe that he couldn't even wrestle throughout this whole time, and they just didn't focus on him much. They just showed 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds of him training with a brace on, saying he was going to be ready. But good on him. He really made the most out of whatever he had to deal with. I loved what he did right after the Royal Rumble when I was in attendance for that, both at the Rumble and then on Monday Night Raw. So that was great. And I thought if they had gone with Rollins versus Cody, it would have been an amazing match. I think that, we had the 3 matches originally between those two, but things are different, and I think it would have been one more great match to see. So I guess it wasn't meant to be, but it was good. So props to Rollins. He did a great job without being able to wrestle that entire time. Truly amazing. Good for him. I'm glad he was able to come back. He looked great in the match. He was in 3 of them at the end of the day. When he came back and took that chair shot from Reigns, that really just put an exclamation mark. If we would have had Dean Ambrose been able to come out of retirement and come back, as the doc certainly thinks he's in retirement, but that really would have been the cherry on top of all of it. But having the Shield music hit and having him come out in the tactical gear and, putting his body on the line one last time really was great for his story. So props to Rollins. Now, the man I'm most disappointed in for this documentary is Roman Reigns. He basically didn't do anything. Maybe it's because he doesn't show up that often, but he just had like 2 or 3 lines throughout the entire hour. It was weird. He was MIA, so he just didn't do anything. I tried to write down a few notes about everyone, but there really just wasn't anything to say for him. The only thing he said is that Roman Reigns just does what he does, that he main events WrestleMania, and I guess that's what he does, and that's about all he does. But there's no doubt he played his part well on screen. That's what we're there for, and so good on him. It was a great ending. He looked strong and looked the way he should throughout the 2 matches. So good for Reigns, but glad we can move forward with something a little different going forward out of him. So take all the time you need to come back, Roman. Take all the time. It's fine. Let's keep having someone else in the spotlight. Totally fine. Lastly, Cody Rhodes, you were amazing. This documentary really made you look good, but you always look good. What can we say? You are the man. We have to feel for you in this documentary. You almost had it snatched away from you when you worked harder than anyone, coming back over the last couple of years, returned from that gruesome injury, and won the Rumble. Should have won the first time against Reigns, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions, but you stuck it out for another whole year, did literally everything. Took pictures with tens and hundreds of thousands of fans probably. Man, even I got a picture with you at the live event. So thank you, Cody. That was amazing. You're really a man for the people. And it was great. I mean, you just saw him when he let himself be filmed and spoke after that SmackDown. Seeing him on film and when he just essentially gave up his spot to The Rock after SmackDown, you just had to feel for him. There was just nothing else there. I mean, wow. And he said you just had to believe the fans wouldn't lose faith in him. And surely enough, they did not. They came out in force that we want Cody. So wow, what a great connection he had with the fans over these last couple of years. He deserves everything that he got. Wish what he were doing now was a little more interesting on screen, but it was an amazing 2 WrestleManias. So you just have to feel for him. Even when you've done everything and you've won the Royal Rumble, to still have it in your mind that the WWE brass is still just not sure that this is the time to pull the trigger on you. Really frustrating. Cody, you are the man. props to you, Cody. So if I had to rank everyone in this particular documentary, Triple H looked the best, Cody Rhodes second best, and then, you know, it was The Rock's documentary, we'll put him third, and then Rollins fourth, Reigns last of the 5 main characters. So maybe we have to talk about another main character. Maybe the fans should be number 1 in this documentary, because at the end of the day, the fans were the best. They knew it all from the start that it should be Cody. So good on the fans, and even The Rock could not deny the fans. So props to the fans. You look the best. I think the one thing I'm always reminded of that on the Masked Man show, David Shoemaker of The Ringer always says that WWE makes themselves the villains in every single documentary. And I don't know, in a way they kind of did here again. It was that they just bent to the knee of The Rock and thinking that Hollywood and non-wrestling fans should trump the fans for a while. And only when the fans really stood up to them that it was time. So I guess maybe every 10 years that's what we'll get. WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania, that was one for the ages there. So I'm guessing it repeats every 10 years. We build up to that point, and we got it again here with WrestleMania 40. So let's give some final thoughts on the documentary itself. And as always, technically this was very sound. The WWE is the best in the business at their production of documentaries, and really during every single Raw and SmackDown as well. So good for them. Their video crew is amazing. Great job as always. Now, a couple things that we thought were great. Really a kind of Rock versus Triple H feeling that we had. Obviously one of the great rivalries of the Attitude Era. And so they kind of had differing opinions about things here, and it was good to see that rekindled. Also, the sympathy for Cody Rhodes was top notch, and that's just what Cody Rhodes does and who Cody Rhodes is. So amazing as always for him. Now, a couple improvements we would have liked to see. One, more on the Seth Rollins injury. It was a pretty big deal for him to try to make his way back in time for WrestleMania, which he obviously successfully did, but then had to take a break afterwards. So props for him for being able to get back into fighting shape. Secondly, anything more with Reigns or Heyman? I mean, wow. Heyman had one sentence maybe in the entire documentary? Unacceptable. We know we want to hear from Paul Heyman. He's truly one of the all-time greats, so there should have been more from him. And of course, Reigns was one of the 2 main players here, so we certainly should have gotten more from him, but he was pretty much just an afterthought and pushed to the side for this documentary, so very disappointing there. Lastly, anything from the voice of the fans, whoever that may have been, maybe Cheap Heat's Peter Rosenberg, or Sam Roberts, or David Shoemaker, someone to kind of interject a few times throughout to say a little bit more, really would have been good for business and make it just a more full documentary to talk about these Cody crybabies a little bit more in-depthly. So that really would have been nice to see as well. And finally, a complete whiff from this documentary were some of the behind-the-scenes decisions to get what we saw in the ring on both nights of WrestleMania. There was just nothing there at all. Especially what we could have seen was the theory on including the legends like John Cena and The Undertaker in the final match, where they would have had some sort of discussion of whether Cody needed to win this one cleanly with no help involved, overcome everyone in the bloodline, versus what they did was that he beat the bloodline at their own game when we knew they would have everybody come out and try to help Roman to maintain that title, but Cody, I guess, just needed some help, and how they landed on those particular guys and how they felt about doing it. Obviously, these are people we want to see and hear from, so that would have been great. But nonetheless, overall, a really great product. We're giving it a very solid B+ final grade. So, as we said at the beginning, we want to go back and rebook things just a little bit here to see what we would have done had we been given the opportunity. So, let's take this all the way back to the road to WrestleMania 39. Remember, WrestleMania XXXIX was going to be at SoFi Stadium in LA, and The Rock had teased at the Super Bowl the prior year that he just might be coming back for that WrestleMania. So we had at the Royal Rumble, Reigns defeated Kevin Owens, and then Sami Zayn turned on Reigns when he refused to hit Owens with the steel chair and instead hit Reigns. And then, of course, Cody Rhodes made his big return from his pec injury, and he ended up winning the Royal Rumble as the surprise entrant at number 30. But if that wasn't what we wanted, and we did instead want to actually have Rock versus Reigns at WrestleMania 39, what could we have done? Well, we had the first War Games coming back after a very long time from the main roster, and so sometime after the Bloodline won that War Games match, Triple H could have said how annoyed he was with the Bloodline and what they were doing, so he could have said what he basically said after WrestleMania 39, but moved it up and said that now we're going to introduce the World Heavyweight title, and whoever is the winner of the Royal Rumble match will become the first World Heavyweight Champion and lead Monday Night Raw. And then Reigns, of course, would stay on SmackDown with the WWE Universal Championship. So I think that really would have solved things. We would not have had to have Rock come back and win the Royal Rumble just like he did all those many years ago so he could beat CM Punk and then face John Cena. We just didn't need to rerun that again. So this would have cleared the path for Rock versus Reigns, so anyone could have won that Royal Rumble and won the World Heavyweight Championship. So, since Cody apparently was ready to go, what we would have done is had Cody make that surprise entrance in 30 and then lose as the last person out. And so he would have been dejected, very sad, but he would have squirmed his way into the World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania 39 against whoever they decided to win, like Rollins or McIntyre, somebody like that could have won that Rumble, and he could have faced them at WrestleMania 39. It would have been great. He would have then lost, and then he could have gotten drafted to SmackDown, and then Roman Reigns and the Bloodline could have laughed at him for the entire year, saying, ha, you couldn't even win the World Heavyweight Championship. Why would I give you a chance to win the WWE Universal Championship? So, I think that could have gone well, and then Cody could have somehow miraculously won the Royal Rumble for the first time instead, and then Reigns could have done nothing about it, and then we would have finally gotten that match. We would have had Rock lose to Reigns at WrestleMania 39, and hopefully then Rock, if he wanted to, he could have, went away into the sunset and had that have been his final match if he chose, or if not, he could certainly come back and do whatever he wanted later. But it really would have been a much better path to go. But we are where we are, so let's talk ahead to WrestleMania 41. So we know the night after WrestleMania, Rock said he's coming after Rhodes. So yep, let's just do that. It's just gotta happen. Cody Rhodes versus The Rock for the WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania 41. And he's going to lose when all of these new Bloodline members help him out, and he gets the win and then kind of disappears with the championship, as they always do with these main championships. So finally, Rhodes is going to have to go back. He'll win the King of the Ring tournament and get this automatic shot. That way The Rock can't say no to a rematch, and he'll finally beat The Rock at SummerSlam to get the title back. Then, on the other side, Roman Reigns needs something to do at WrestleMania 41, so he will be fighting the Bloodline, of course, Solo Sikoa. He will finally beat him, vanquish that side of the Bloodline at this year's WrestleMania. But at the end of that match, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, they're going to injure Roman Reigns so he can disappear for months and months on end yet again, but at least there will be a good reason because he's now fakely injured. So we won't see him again for a long time. But finally, we will finally roll into WrestleMania 42. We will finally get the dream match in The Rock's final match of his career. It will be The Rock versus Roman Reigns. No titles on the line, but it'll end night 2 of WrestleMania 42. So there you have it. I think that is really all we need to do here to get all the pieces into place for the next couple of years. So with that said, let's leave it right there. I am the SportsZu, and this has been the OK Not OK podcast.